I would like to start this story with the words of Steve Jobs. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Where do any discoveries and great achievements begin? With one crazy idea that is beyond the comprehension of ordinary people, right? If you look at history, all great discoveries were made by dreamers who believed in their dreams and did everything possible to make them happen. Many geniuses were considered crazy because ordinary people often do not understand the meaning of such extraordinary things. No one sees their idea as the way they see it themselves, and this is why very often such people are misunderstood and abandoned by everyone until they succeed in implementing their plan, and only then do fame and popularity come. If you have been thinking about an idea for a long time but think it might be crazy, then it might be worth considering, is it so crazy? Or maybe you are on the verge of a huge discovery or accomplishment. Maybe you should reconsider your views on your dream and make it a goal. In the meantime, I will tell you the story of a man who decided to change the course of history. Everyone in his village considered him crazy, even his own children turned away from him. But this did not stop the man, and for 30 years he chased his dream. Did he manage to accomplish what he set out to do? You will find out if you watch this video to the end and give it your like. Well, make yourself comfortable, let's get started. Laung Hai Fo Yang was born in the village of Kotalava and lived there all his life. His life was very hard as there was almost no water in his village and people had to travel long distances every day in order to stock up on water for themselves, for their cattle, and for watering their crops. All his life, Laung Hai had to work as much as he could wherever he could. He was a loader at local construction sites, a laborer on farms. He did everything and anything to earn at least some money. In addition to work, he also ran his own household, which also required a lot of time and energy, and the young man spent almost all his time working. He dreamed of having a tractor and imagined how he could plow and cultivate the land around his village. In real life, the village became poorer every year due to lack of water. All the precipitation in that area fell on the nearby hills, along which the water flowed in the other direction. Gradually, people left their homes in search of a better life somewhere else, leaving abandoned houses and fields that quickly deteriorated and became overgrown. Laung Hai was so worried about his village, he could not sit by and watch how it got worse and worse every year. Even the man's children left the village and moved to places with more fertile land. And then a plan on how to save the village from drought and extinction and restore life to this small part of the world began to form in the man's head. When he shared his thoughts with his wife, she told him that he was crazy and advised him to give up these ridiculous thoughts and instead think about moving in with their children. But Laung Hai could not do that. His conscience told him that he should help his native village and bring water to it. When his wife did not support him, he tried to ask for help from friends and other villagers, but no one believed in his unrealistic idea. The thing is that it was an extremely long distance from the village to the nearest river, and the man offered to dig a ditch wide and deep enough to let water get to the village through it. Everyone thought that he must be crazy, because without special equipment, it was impossible to do this, and no one supported the man with his bold idea. But Laung Hai did not despair. He decided that it was his duty to help his village, and he would do it even if he had to go it alone. Every day in any season, whether it was hot or rainy, the man woke up at dawn, picked up a pickaxe and a shovel, and got to work. It took him 2 hours to get to his place of work, and then he would work for 5 to 7 hours and then walk 2 hours back home. But then he had his household chores to attend to. After this, he would sleep for a few hours and then do it all over again the next day. The work was very slow. During the first year, Laung Hai managed to make some progress, but unfortunately, that year there was a strong hurricane, and the entire ditch that he managed to dig by that time was simply filled in again. Anyone else, if they were in his shoes, would have given up after this, but not Laung Hai. He set a clear goal for himself and firmly decided that he would spend his life on it if necessary, but he would achieve his goal and make the way for water to get to his village. Once, the man worked all day in the heavy rain, although his wife had warned him the day before to stay home. She had stopped fighting him about that moat a long time ago and just considered it her husband's crazy hobby. But still, the woman worried about his health. On that day, in addition to heavy rain, the north wind was also blowing and it was quite cold. But Lang Hai went to do his work anyway, and when he arrived back home, he fell ill. His whole body hurt. It was hard for him to move his arms and legs, and at times to even breathe. Experienced doctors would most likely diagnose extreme physical exhaustion and possibly pneumonia, but there were no doctors in the village, so the man had to treat himself with the help of traditional medicine. For half a year, Lang Hai lay at home, barely hanging on. All this time, his wife was so worried about him and looked after him as much as she could. When the man was getting better, he again started talking about the construction of his moat for water. The poor woman tried to dissuade her husband from this undertaking as much as she could. She saw how much strength and energy he spent on this, but she could not persuade her husband to stop doing it, no matter how much she wanted it. Having finally recovered from his illness, the man picked up a pickaxe and a shovel again and set off to dig the ditch. Many years passed in this way, and one day, with one last strike of the pickaxe, the man, to his great joy, saw how the water ran along his makeshift moat, at first little and slowly, but more and more every minute, and filling the entire channel with water. Can you imagine how he felt in that moment? He spent his whole life, health, and business on this goal, and finally achieved a result. He felt all kinds of emotions. At first, he cried with happiness. Then he smiled like a madman. And then he danced and doused himself with water. He was like a child who received a long-awaited toy. In total, it took Lang Hai 30 years to dig a moat to reach his village. His precise calculation made it possible to bring water not only to his native village, but also the neighboring settlements. Life appeared in these places again. The water provided by Lang Hai was used by more than 3,000 people. The authorities, having learned about such a feat of one person, gave him a tractor. That year, both dreams of this man came true. He got both water and a tractor. Despite the popularity that suddenly came to him, he behaved quite modestly and avoided public speaking. He only said that it was his duty to help his native village and nothing more. Share your opinion about today's story in the comments, please. What do you think about this person? Like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so as not to miss new videos.